Hey guys, Miss Cranford here. So we are going to work on our abstract sewing project. So I'm going to move the camera around here so that you can see. First of all, you're going to start with a piece of fabric. Fabric is the same thing as cloth. And this type of fabric or cloth is burlap, okay? It's definitely not something you'd want to sleep on or wear, but it's a really good material to use for our first sewing project. So what you're going to do, you're going to receive some of this skinny tape from your teacher. And normally what I do is I give students just a big long piece of it, and I have them hanging on the side of their desk like this. And then when you go to use it, you're going to just kind of hold it up here, get an estimate. You're going to tear it. You don't need scissors for masking tape. You're going to tear it. And so you're going to give your little sewing square here a border. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to line it up with the top. You're going to slide it down about halfway, and then you're going to press. Okay? Now, when you go to pull it up, sometimes I have students try to pull it up from the cloth. Honestly, that messes up, because what we're trying to do is, you can probably see there's these little tiny strings or pieces of, well, really strings that will come off of this, and what will happen is slowly your burlap square gets smaller and smaller and more frayed. And so what we're doing now is using this tape to protect those edges. So you're going to take and peel that up, flip it over. You're going to fold this like so, and then you've done one side. And you're going to take your scissors and trim off these little edges. So you're going to do that for all four sides. And so once again, you're just going to hold your tape up like this, get an estimate of how long you will need it to be, tear it. Okay, you're going to line it up here at the top, go down halfway, press it. It really doesn't have to be perfect. This is not going to be part of our design at the end. So don't worry if this is not perfect, because this is really just more, like I said, a protective barrier. Okay, and so you're going to do that, and then you're going to do that for all four sides. So eventually, here is a project, eventually it's going to look like this. Okay, and so after you have all four sides, you are going to start doing your needlework. And so you're going to be using 3 different stitches: the running stitch, the satin stitch, and the seed stitch. Now I'm going to show you the running stitch first. The running stitch is, in my opinion, the most simplest of those stitches that I just named. And so we're going to do a few things here that are a little bit challenging about this project. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we are going to tie a double knot at the end of one side of our yarn. Okay, and so the way we're going to do that is we're going to make a U. We're going to cross that over so it makes an X now. So see where the X is right there. Now, right now, my piece of yarn is on top. This piece is what's on top. Whichever piece is on top is going to go under and through the loop, and then we're going to pull it tight. We've made a knot. Okay, now one knot is not enough to keep your string from coming through the burlap fabric, and so we're going to have to do that again. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a U. Okay, we're going to cross it over just like so, and then we're going to take whichever piece is on top, and we're going to tuck it underneath and go through. Now, the big thing about doing this double knot is that we want our knots to land on top of each other. Now, lucky for you, if they don't land on top of each other, it's not a huge deal. Like, it's really not. Let's say you have a knot here and a knot here. What you're going to do is you're going to keep tying knots until you have 2 knots on top of each other. Okay? Now, at the other end of our yarn, the completely other end, okay, we are going to thread our needle. Now, there's 2 ways to thread our needle. We can use a hot dog bun, or we can do it the little bit more difficult way. So I'm going to show you the more difficult way first. If you try the more difficult way twice and it doesn't work, then you need to go to a hot dog bun. Okay? So the way you do that, first of all, we don't put this in our mouth. We don't spit on our hand and do like that, because number one, it's really not going to work. This is not thread. This is yarn, and those techniques do not work with yarn, and yarn tastes really yucky in your mouth. Okay, so one way that you can thread your needle is you can fold it over, create a little loop. You're going to squish it really tight, make like a bump, and you're going to wiggle that little bump through. you want all the yarn to come through, not part of it, because if you look closely at yarn, you can see that it's made up of multiple strands. So we want everything to come through so that it's not divided, okay? And then you're going to take and you are going to make that knot again, okay? And I'll show you that in just a minute after I show you the hot dog bun technique. Now, let's say the harder technique doesn't really work for you. You're going to use a hot dog bun. This is a hot dog bun, okay? It's a tiny piece of thick paper folded in half, okay? So you're going to put the yarn through the bun, okay? This is not the side with my knot, different side. I'm going to pull it until it disappears on one side, and then I'm going to take and wiggle my hot dog bun through the eye of my needle. Once it's all the way through, I'm going to pull that hot dog bun off. Ta-da! Okay? And then you are going to knot this needle onto your yarn. Okay? And so the way you're going to do that, same thing, make a U, cross it over. Whichever piece is on top, you're going to loop around through the circle and then pull it tight. You only need really one knot for this side. Okay? So now we're going to do our running stitch. And so a running stitch, what we're going to do in this project is we're going to be working from left to right. Okay, so let me zoom out just a smidge. And when you sew anything, you have a pretty side and an ugly side, okay? And so we want our ugly side to be where the knots are, okay? So that's where that side is. This is my ugly side, okay? And to do my running stitch, you are just going to count 3 little spaces, okay? And so right now I am on top of my burlap square, okay? And so my next stitch that I'm going to do is I'm going to go down. Sewing is a lot like weaving. You know how weaving is over, under, over, under, over, under? Well, sewing is a lot like that, okay? So here's where I went in. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go in. Okay, so now I'm at the bottom, so I need to come back up top. So I like to take my little needle and let it peek through. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to pull it back through. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down. I'm going to have to count 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go down. And that right there is my running stitch. You don't have to do 3 spaces. You could do 4, you could do 5. But I would, just for time's sake, at least skip 3 little spaces. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this rather quickly so that we can go on to what to do next.